Yeah, on this measured Kool-Aid report, this is a very important one, but I'm gonna tell you right now, this is something that I actually feel real good about. And the question is, CeeDee Lamb ready to assume the mantle from Amari Cooper? And I'm gonna be honest, the more and more I look at it, the more and more I say yes, and I'm gonna get into it a little bit more. But now I've been really peeping Mr. CeeDee Lamb, and Mr. CeeDee Lamb is go take that next step. Now I already kind of covered this, so I'm gonna go through some history. So stay with this one because I'm gonna make a case, and it's gonna kind of sum itself up at the end. But from what I'm seeing and what I've been observing with Mr. CeeDee Lamb, especially at these training camp practices, he ready. He definitely ready. But going back in time where I've already kind of done material on this, I did a video and I asked, and I'm gonna put it in the description, is Lamb ready to be the number one if the Cowboys move on from Cooper? Because at that point, Cooper wasn't off the team yet, but it was obvious that the Cowboys was positioning to let him go. Well, stay with me on this one. I've been researching receiver transitions for years now, and I really got aggressive about it when it was obvious that they was getting ready to move on from Dez or moved on from Dez. So I went back in time and I went into the time machine. And that time machine, I wanted to see what was the historical ways of teams that moved on from a number one and how did they transition. Okay. And I found that it was two ways that teams did it. Some teams drafted guys with what I would call heroes, to where if they was going to have a number one deficit, then they drafted a guy to try to make up for that deficit. I call that a hero. And so I went back all the way to 2012 and I looked at all the receivers who was drafted to be the number one. And I'm gonna tell you, the failure rate was super high. I'm talking about super high. 95% of them failed, or what I call fail is they never attained the new number one spot. They never became the real number one for their team. And I start calling them heroes. So when you drafted to be a hero, likely you don't succeed. And this got a lot to do with Amari Cooper. So y'all just stay with me real quick. But then there was another way where you was drafted and you was put under an existing number one and you was able to cut your teeth and then develop into the new number one. The success rate on those was actually the exact opposite. It was 95%. So that got to do with Amari Cooper versus CeeDee Lamb, because historically it just works. So if we just look at some examples, and I call those disciples. So you either a hero like D. Smith, he was drafted to Philly to be a hero. You can easily say, did he really ball out? But with AJ Brown, he likely will, because now he gonna be able to cut his teeth. But D. Smith, he was very so that goes into how important it is for you to be transitioning right. So I'm gonna give you a couple of examples. So first of all, this happened a lot with Atlanta, okay, and a lot of different teams. It started with White, who was the number one, and then they went to Julio as the number two. But then Julio eventually became the number one, and Ridley became the number two. Ridley then became the number one, and now he's gone, and now Kyle Pitts is going to assume that. And it works. Like, it really works. That was 4 generations of receivers in one team to where it worked, and it historically works. One of the best teams to do it, I can tell you the best teams to do it right now from my research, is Pittsburgh and Green Bay. Looking at Green Bay, they've been doing it for years. And I call this the disciple model, where they have an existing number one. Then they bring in somebody as the number two, and they work behind the number one for a couple of years. They eventually move on from that number one, and that number two becomes the number one, and the process is pretty seamless and it works. Especially when you look at who is the best example to me to Amari and CeeDee Lamb, and that was the Texans with Andre Johnson and Hopkins. Hopkins didn't come in as the number one. He came in as the number two behind Andre Johnson, who was the clear number one. But they eventually moved on, like we did with Cooper, moved him to the Titans, and then Hopkins became the number one, and we all know what happened. But Hopkins was not a hero. He was the discipled. He was discipled under Andre Johnson. We also had it happen with even the Dallas Cowboys many times. The best transitions, even Dez didn't come in as a number one. He came in as a number two behind Miles Austin. Miles Austin then, obviously moved on, and then Dez assumed the new mantle as a number one, and then clowned as the new 88. So obviously, in terms of history, the Dallas Cowboys did it right. They did it right. They didn't just throw CeeDee Lamb out there because we drafted you at number 17. They allowed him to cut his teeth under Amari Cooper. They allowed him, just like other disciples, where it historically has worked 95% of the time. They allowed him to cut his teeth under Amari, moved on from Amari, and then said, okay, new number one, it's time for you to assume your position. But see, 95% is not 100%. So even when I did this video about asking the question, is Lamb ready to be the number one? I wasn't too sure, because there's still a 5% chance of failure from my research. But looking at Lamb, when I watched him in training camp, and we go through a little bit, now Mr. CeeDee Lamb is ready. First of all, look at his body. He's bigger. He still, according to what I'm looking at on the film, kept his speed. There's a lot of reasons to where you can see he has put in the work to be prepared to be this number one. And he's a worker. He's a real worker. He's always, day one, had a crazy work ethic, preparing to be the new 88. So, and when I look at him, when I really look at him, and I've been watching him at training camp, one of the main things that you see, and this is coming from a guy who played corner and know how to really break down receivers, one of the best things you see about Mr. CeeDee Lamb is he's so fundamentally sound in his route running and his feet work. Like, he has no indication when his break is coming. That's what, and I'm telling you, as somebody who played corner, it is almost impossible to defend guys that show no indications when they getting ready to come out they breaks. You can't see it. That is somebody that's very nuanced in his route running. And you don't have to be jet fast. You don't. When you a route runner like he's been working on, you go get open. Especially, he's actually working with Dak a lot in the off season. And I'm just looking at him, and me looking at him and watching him getting out of his breaks and how fluid he is on his feet work. I feel way more confident once the cameras came on and the film starts showing the work on him. Man, I'm willing to bet anybody that he's going to assume that number one with no problem. And I mean it. I'm talking about with no problem. So you know. And then, you look at him with the pads on, not the pads, but you just watching them compete. Man, CeeDee Lamb doing this thing. The only thing I will say is I wish to God that he make two-handed catches. Even though I know he can make them one-handed catches, I prefer him to make two-handed catches. I swear, that's just fundamental to me. But without critiquing his what's been putting out at training camp, you can see it. And I see him being exactly what Hopkins became after Andre Johnson. I mean, I see the same career transition, just like the Texans moved on from a guy that clearly has Hall of Fame numbers and successfully transitioned the new number one to the point that they forgot about Andre Johnson. The same thing will likely happen with us, where we gonna miss Amari Cooper, and we would have been better with Amari Cooper, but yeah, we still are gonna be okay with Mr. CeeDee Lamb, because now we can see it. It's one thing to talk about it from a concept, like when I talked about it from a concept from this video. Conceptually, we can talk about disciples versus heroes and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, you gotta see it. And I see it. I can see it in his routes. I can see it in his body. I can see it in everything that's exponentially important. He's bigger, he been putting in the work. He definitely got the swag, and let's talk about it. And I'm gonna tell you straight up, the only reason CeeDee Lamb won't go off, it's only one. It's only one reason why Mr. CeeDee Lamb won't go off. That one reason is Kellen Moore. That is the only thing that will hold back Mr. CeeDee Lamb from being a premier number one. The system of Kellen Moore. And Dez warned about it. He was talking to KD Drummond, and he was warning. He was like, it's too much talent in Dallas to run a system-based offense. That's the only thing that would prevent Mr. CeeDee Lamb from clearly becoming the next number one, no problem. So, for instance, it already came out, obviously, about Amari, right? Amari came out and he spoke, and he said, and they asked him, was CeeDee ready? And he said again, it's just about opportunity. I think if Kellen decides to feature him, he's definitely ready to step up. That is the big if right there. Kellen Moore. And if he features him. This came out today. Well, it didn't come out today. My boy Jay Tuck, he brought this to he just posted this on Twitter, and he was like, not sure I missed this, but same with me. Michael Gallup said he agrees with Amari Cooper's assessment that Kellen Moore needs to feature CeeDee Lamb. Oh, now we got Gallup agreeing that it. Ooh, listen, y'all. If y'all can't see by now that Kellen Moore is the potential problem, I cannot help you. I've done 80 videos on this. Now add Michael Gallup to the list. Michael Gallup said he agrees with Amari Cooper's assessment that Kellen Moore needs to feature, keyword, feature, one more time, zoom in on me, feature CeeDee Lamb. He didn't take Cooper's comments as criticism. Gallup said Cooper was speaking his truth. So yeah, that would be literally the only thing. I mean, the only thing that would prevent Mr. CeeDee Lamb from becoming the premier number one. It's only one, and that's Kellen Moore. But in terms of, is he ready? He ready. And the saddest part is this, because I'm gonna give y'all the whole truth. This is the saddest part. Front office is likely setting CeeDee Lamb up similar to how Cooper was set up, because they, through Bobby Bell, was asking questions. Is he a dog? They don't know if he's quite the guy that they thought of him when he was drafted at 17. They don't know if he's a dog. Man, this dude is a dog. Bruh, his first practice, he comes out and he throws up the horns upside down. Dog, that is a dog. He lives to compete. Don't forget, CeeDee Lamb got in Parsons' face in training camp last year and said, man, I saw that you was scared when you was on me. You was scared. Man, that dude is a dog. There is no doubt that CeeDee Lamb is a dog. He has everything mentally, physically that it takes to be the next Hopkins. Everything. It's only with those pencil pushers and with those front office people protecting Kellen Moore get out the way. Get out the way. Will they go to a system that's going to feature this guy? But if they do, we go rock. I mean, and he go rock. But or they go cover for Mr. Kellen Moore, like the media cover for him, the front office cover for him. All these people, Gallup talked about it, Amari talked about it, Emmitt Smith talked about it, Aikman talked about it, Irvin talked about it, Jimmy Johnson talked about it, Kurt Warner talked about it. Everybody talking about Kellen Moore and his system philosophy, but the people who need to be talking about it the most, which is the Dallas local media, the local podcast community. That's who need to be talking about it the most, because I said this and I know this. That is the biggest risk to our season, is if Kellen Moore is going to feature not just CeeDee Lamb, his other dogs. But I just want to address what my eyes are seeing since training camp lights have come on now. Since now we can actually see it's not just the gym work anymore. Now it's about how's it looking versus competition. What is CeeDee Lamb looking like with the lights on? Does he look like he took that next step? To me, it does, and it's clear. And I'm talking about he's smooth out them breaks. I'm talking about smooth. You got to trust me. I've been watching receivers for most of my life on how to beat them. And I know a dangerous route runner, and he is. I see it. He is smooth out his breaks. It's pure subtlety. You can't see it coming. But like all our other videos, man, I'm going to keep saying this. Y'all make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe to this content, because I'm gonna keep giving it to you, man. I ain't gonna take no days off on this stuff, and we gonna just keep giving you that sauce about the Dallas Cowboys and the measured Kool-Aid. And this is truly measured Kool-Aid. I'm taking drinks, full gulps of CeeDee Lamb being a #1 and being a quality #1 and a featured #1, and it's only one person that can hurt that or help that. That's Kellen Moore. But y'all stay up with Boss Cowboy Sports, where your voice matter. Peace.